understand that time is of the essence here. I'm basically sort of doing an introduction for Jamie's book. Because I'm working on a book of jazz poetry myself. Jamie and I met years and years ago, and we found out we were both jazz fans. And some of you may be familiar with the musician P.J. Perry. I knew Paul years and years ago. He was about 18 years old. And I was, God, I don't know, pushing 30 or something. This is called Blues for P.J. Perry. You were just a young cat back in those scuffling days, when you used to sell your talent short for necessary bread at the new Delhi Cabaret, cranking out repetitious riffs behind strippers. And used to come talk with me between sets where I sat trying to write poetry in a butt-scarred booth. I can still hear you saying, man, I can hardly hack this routine sometimes, as we knock back whiskey and cokes in that down and dirty bottle club. The gig would finish and you'd split thankfully up to the original cellar on Broadway in Maine to jam with Al Neal, Greg Simpson, all the other jazz men. Make your alto sax sing its real and righteous song till hell wouldn't have it. And one Sunday evening of sedate Brubeck-type jazz at the Queen Elizabeth Auditorium, you shuffled on stage, rumpled and determined, clutching your horn like a weapon, tapped your foot meaningfully, and proceeded to blow the lid off the joint with an explosion of breakneck pop, wigging the crowd, proving your worth, taking your first certain steps towards eventual fame, that wild, wailing, one-of-a-kind Vancouver night. It's the first time I ever heard him play anything except music for backing strippers. This poem's to one of my jazz heroes, Chet Baker, who's probably one of the most tragic performers that ever lived. It's called Getting Lost for Chet Baker. Plangent trumpet haunting through distance, pensive voice sure phrasing down yesterday, and confident youth, electric performer, putting your stamp on each fluent chorus. Upstart of jazz in your sailing heyday. Watch out for this little white cat, said Bird. To dizzy you nodded and gave you your due. As poet of hornmen, cool master of song. Deftly you swung through your high flying prime, weaving your spell through the bebop years, jamming with all the other young jazzmen, breaking hearts with your heartbreak voice. Then came downfall, the spoons, the spikes, the tracks, the con games, the muggings, the tricks, the jungles of junk, the opiate quicksands, the clinical sojourns, the tragic relapses. After years in Europe, you stumbled back, the once handsome face of ravaged mask, a harrowing roadmap of heroin country, the James Dean of jazz growing haggard and old. Yet when you carried your horn to the mic, the charm and talent broke free once more. The sensitive voice had a ragged edge now, but still a ghost of your genius burned. Let's get lost, you used to sing, and sadly enough you lost yourself. You died in Holland, perhaps on purpose, but your legend lives, along with your music. called A Gentleman of the Blues in memory of Charles Brown. And some of you may know of Charles Brown. He was a very underappreciated performer, but he's one of the best in the business. My friend Jim Christie and I went down and saw him at the Yale, and this is one of his very last gigs. It's almost showtime at the Yale Blues Bar. The jam-packed pub hums and buzzes with anticipation. We await the arrival of a genuine living legend. The side door swings open, and there he is, Mr. Charles Brown, resplendent in a white cashmere topcoat. But there's something wrong. He seems almost too frail and enfeebled to stand. He's being supported on either side by a couple of attendants. The bar goes quiet as they guide him towards a small stage. Is he going to be able to perform? Have no fear. They sit him down on the piano stool, and suddenly, miraculously, the real Charles Brown materializes, tests the keyboard, begins tinkling out the familiar chords of Fool's Paradise. We breathe easier. All is well. His sidemen join him, string themselves out across the shallow stage. Drums, tenor sax, electric guitar, and a pretty chick on stand-up bass. The maestro nods to his troops, launches into bad, bad whiskey. He seems rejuvenated, fully in command now. Belts out the lyric in that soft, familiar voice. Fingers snap, hands clap, feet tap. The master has taken charge. Between sets, fortified by a pint or two, I decided to have no few words with the old blues master, who inspired the likes of Ray Charles and Nat King Cole. The Yale has no green room. Charles Brown is sitting in a sort of cramped alcove beside the stage. He looks tired from the exertion, is obviously unwell. He smiles at my compliments, we shake hands. He speaks as he sings in a soft, gentlemanly way. He tells me how he was held captive by mobsters for a couple of years. He speaks of upcoming gigs and albums. Someone else wants the old trooper's ear. He signs a CD for me. I thank him and take my leave. The second set is even better than the first. The man's commitment to his music is total. He closes to wild applause, a standing ovation. Then his attendants help him out the side door again. 4 months later, Charles Brown dies suddenly of congestive heart failure. We have been present at one of his final performances. The only mementos I have of that amazing evening are a signed copy of All My Life and a few poignant memories. He was truly one of a kind. It was a privilege to have met him, however briefly. So unfortunately, he's not better known, but